Yo, what's up? We're back and we have a new surrounding, as you can see, new studio. I'm Jameel. Welcome to episode 45 of Mealy Stocks as we talk about the card that has no comp. How do we value it? I know that's something you've been thinking about. Let's get into it today. Yo, what's up? We're back. Sorry, it's been a little bit of a delay. We've been in some transition here at the shop, and we have now moved into this new studio, which I'm very blessed to be in. We still have a lot of work to do. This is going to change, of course, how we do our backdrops and what we do in this room. It's our break room, but it's become very, very functional for us, and we're very thankful. Welcome to Mealy Stocks episode 45, as we are now moving into really looking at maybe hitting episode 50, right? To think about that and to be a part of the Slab Stocks Network and with Aaron and Nate and all the guys, and just doing this has been an honor. So I want to get into today's topic today regarding a question that's come up. I get this question a lot, but I know Aaron has gotten this question a lot, and he told me, hey, maybe you should do an episode on this and answer a lot of questions that I've been getting and you've been getting. So we'll get into the idea of the card that has no comp, the card that, how do you assign a value to a card where you can't find anything on it today as we get into Mealy Stocks. If you don't know, my name is Jameel. I own the Mealy Pop Shop here in Gainesville, Florida, and we have a lot of things always going on at the shop, including this week. We have a trading day. If you're going to be in Florida and you'll be in the North Florida, Central Florida region, you should definitely come out. It's Saturday. It's October 16th. It's in the shop. We have free food. We have free sodas. And we also will be doing kind of some trade incentives. Two trading days ago, what we used to do is we would give away packs if you made trades with people in the store. So we have a lot of fun with it. It is this Saturday, October 16th. Come on out if you can make it. Would love to see you. I love to meet new faces. We can't do anything virtually, but we'd love to see you in person. So that's something we got coming up in the shop. I'll be sharing more and more things as we get going on in the fall. It's gonna be a crazy fall, as you guys know it. And looking forward to it. In the business world, we talk about is quarter four. So, all right. What happens when you get a chance to buy, trade for, you get a chance to obtain, maybe you hit it in a break or something like that as well, a card where there is no comps. And you cannot, I get this question so often, there's nothing on it. And the truth is, there's always something pertaining to it. So, I think before we get into kind of some of a checklist I've created to kind of share with you what goes on in my mind, and remember, I'm somebody who does set up at shows, and people try and fleece me all the time. People think that if you're a dealer at a show or a card shop or whatever, it's always, hey, they're going to get the upper hand. That's not how it is anymore. People are always kind of trying to show me cards, sell me cards, trade me cards, and they come up with some ridiculous comps sometimes because the card is so rare. I do think it's possible for there to be a lot of subjectivity in this area, depending on who you are, how you evaluate the card, how you look at cards. Are you somebody who collects? Are you somebody who flips? Are you somebody who maybe casually sells? Are you somebody who only sells on eBay, MySlabs, Instagram, Facebook? There's so many different caveats to this, but I think I've come up with a way to maybe break it down for everybody. And so before we get into that, let's talk about comps. I think that's the key. What are you looking at as a collector, as a flipper, whatever, in terms of how you evaluate a card? And comps can be very misleading. People can really, really, really be persuasive, can lie about things, can even in some ways change the data in the marketplace. We do live in a time where people are shill bidding. We do live in a time when people are having their way with maybe coming up with pricing, having somebody's buddy bid on it, somebody else make a private sale on this platform, using a comp that shows up somewhere on eBay, and maybe it's a buy it now that sold for $4,000, but then you go look at 130 point, or you use the Alt Chrome plugin or whatever, and then it shows it was sold for $1,500. So there's a lot of things, and I'd encourage you in this world with comps, make sure you're dealing with people that you know and trust. And if you don't, when you vary out and you deal with people who you don't know and trust, you're going to have to deal with potentially some false data. So comping for me is the way I look at it is, eBay obviously being the sale platform, but then taking that data and then looking at it on different platforms as well. So Terapeak is a great resource. The PWCC Marketplace, these are great resources to see past previous datas. There are auction house datas that you can find as well, Heritage, Golden, and you can look at those. That's for more of the higher end cards and the higher end sets. There's another website called WorthPoint. I'd encourage you to look at it. I'm not saying you should subscribe to it, but I definitely think it's worth a look at. And the reason why I say that is WorthPoint is a huge data site. Pulls things from auctions and places from years and years past. I like WorthPoint from the simple fact that if there's something very, very rare that I've never seen before, I can at least search WorthPoint and find it that way. All right, so there's kind of the comp world. I mean, however you're pulling the data, make sure you understand how you're doing it. Same thing with 130 Point, just another website that doesn't get enough credit. The people who are in charge of 130 Point, I feel like those folks should be getting a raise. We should all be giving them something because of what they do to save us so much time and effort when it comes to evaluating things. But let's go through a checklist in my mind of somebody presenting a card to you that's extremely rare. And the words that may come out of their mouth of, oh, I don't know, I can't find anything on it. There's no comps. There's nothing out there, right? Let's kind of have that discussion. So the first thing I think I want you to ask is, when you look at the card, and this is important for understanding cards for generations, is how rare is the card? So is the card, one, extremely rare in that the print run is very low, the grade in terms of how high the grade is very hard? Is it a card that pop reports, really make sense on? I hear that a lot now. I'm getting it so often of, oh, here's this insert of this card. It's a PSA 10. It's a pop 2. But it's an insert of really nobody, or a card that I don't think really many people care for in the market. Will it help you selling it? Maybe you'll get somebody to say, oh, wow, it's a pop 2 or whatever. But I think that there are some things there that you got to be very mindful of as people approach you with the data that they give you. They're only giving you one side. I think another thing to look at for rarity is the BGS when you go to Beckett, and you can create an account for free, I think, on Beckett, is to look at their price guide, but to search things by print run. And maybe there's another episode that I could take and show everybody how I do it, but looking at print runs of a product or a player, seeing how many cards there are in an actual set of that player. A good example in football is like Panini XR. The one-of-ones in Panini XR, there's something like 40 or 50 or 100 one-of-ones per every player in that. And checking the checklist, Cardboard Connection is great, Break Ninja, all these places, Beckett has their own breakdown of these things. It's very important to find out how many cards there are in specific sets. Now, let's say you pull a Brady 101 from 2002 versus a Brady 101 from 2015. Very different cards early on in his career. A thing that many of you may not know, Tom Brady only has, I think, 15 true one-of-ones from 2000 to 2003. So 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, 4 years, Brady's got 14 true one-of-ones outside of plates. I think that's the number. I have to go back and check myself on it, but it's right around there. And the way I know that is just by looking at the Beckett print run and seeing it. So when you find a true one-of-one of Brady, which, by the way, you're not going to find them, they're impossible, you know that the reality of that one-of-one is so much more expensive than really a Brady. I used the example of 2015, but let's just say 2005, 2008, 2010. The rarity of that card is so much more. So always, when you're looking up these things, determine how rare the card is. If it's a modern card out of Select, out of Prizm, out of Optic, out of any of these brands, Bowman Chrome, you're going to see a lot of parallels. You're going to see a lot of cards that are low numbered. So if you can't find the 1-of-1, you might be able to find the 1 out of 5 or the 1 out of 3 or the 1 out of 10. And you can kind of make some assumptions and understandings there. This is a very key thing I look at with brands like National Treasures and especially Flawless, is you'll have these cards that are so low numbered, but you got to realize that the card's out of 3, but there's 1 out of 5 and 1 out of 10 and 1 out of 15 that have sold. So making sure you really look and do your research is very, very, very important, okay? I think that is a extremely important element to look at print runs, seeing how rare the card truly is, understanding the product. Now, when we talk about old cards, vintage cards, we already know that they're rare. You're looking now more at, with vintage cards, unless you're looking at like a test card or something, you're looking more in vintage cards with the population of the graded reports, right? And that's pretty easy to understand. Seeing when the last, PSA 9 of a 1957 Willie Mays sold, right? Those kinds of things are very easy. VCP has some info on there. You can pull that stuff from eBay and PWCC. So I think when you're looking at vintage cards, we're having a different conversation because that's a little bit easier to kind of determine. And if you can't find the vintage card and you can't find a comp in the last year or two, then you really know how rare the card is. You know what I mean? So print runs, very important. Okay? Rarity, very important to understanding kind of what you're looking at. Then the next question is, and I think that people get very pigeonholed with this and tunnel vision with this, but has there been a sale? And I'm not talking about a sale of the exact card, but has there been a sale of a similar card? And so the debate rages on in looking at a card where, let's use Panini Contenders for example. There may be a base card, auto, and then there may be a variation or two variations of that card. Doesn't mean the variation is a short print. It may just mean that the variations are different cards. And so one might be Pop 7, one might be Pop 8, and the other one might be Pop 35, right? So there's lower populations of different variations, and that might be something you want to take into account. But that doesn't discredit the fact that the one with the Pop 25, you may want to look at that price range to understand, hey, this is where that card's selling. And I bring this up because this just came up with me with some Trae Youngs that I was looking at from 2018-19, which I think is still a great buy. 2018-19 Trae Young Contenders PSA 10 autos. There you go. There's your nugget of the day. I think that there's some things as you look at when you evaluate cards and understand the brands and understand how these things come out of the packages to really understand, is it really that rare, and can I find a comp of something? Terapeak has been a great tool. If you don't know what I'm talking about, if you have an eBay store, you get access to Terapeak. Terapeak is great because what you can do is pull data on a card from the last 6, 9, 12, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, right? Why is that important? Because, and now we're in a weird time now, right? Because before, people would say to you, oh, well, that was 6 months ago. Oh, that was a year ago. Oh, that was 2 years ago. Well, a year and a half ago to 6 months ago, right, is a vast spectrum of really high, came down, and now we're kind of leveling back out to where we see cards that normally. So when you look and you think and you consider these things, remember that 12 months ago, or during basketball season, or right around the championship, or the Super Bowl, or the Stanley Cup, or the World Series, right? All those things come into play when you're looking at comps and looking at when things sold. So I encourage you, if you don't have access to Terapeak, to use it because it does pull some good data. The caveat to Terapeak is when you're looking at buy it nows, right? And you're looking at buy it now, best offer, those kinds of things, it doesn't pull that data correctly. So you have to kind of understand the limitations that you work with when you are using these tools. So understanding those factors when you look at a card that maybe you one-on-one or extremely short printed or hasn't sold forever, you gotta do your research, right? I love parallels because if there's a parallel with a 1-on-1, a 1 out of 10, 1 out of 25, 1 out of 50, 1 out of 99, 1 out of 225, whatever, right, out of 500, you can at least kind of gauge some things. Bowman Chrome Heads, the baseball guys who have their multipliers, right, with the different color iterations, a superfractor, a blue, a superfractor, a red, a gold, before that an orange, a gold, right, a blue, all these different things they look at. I think going to find some of those, and Nate's a great resource here on Slab Stocks, but to look at some of those multipliers and how people look at cards, I think that it's not a bad option to consider some of that and apply some of that when you look at basketball, when you look at football, when you look at hockey, when you look at soccer, when you look at Pokemon. Pokemon not so much because they're not short printed, but you get what I'm saying there. I think that there's some viability to helping you understand that. So as you go through and you're looking at all these factors, the rarity, you're looking for some sort of similarity of a sale. You may, if they're graded cards, want to take into account the pop reports, right? If the card is only been graded once, right, and there's nothing higher than that, there's always going to be a premium for that. But if the card is a base card or a card that's not that popular or a card to me that isn't that rare, right, it's only a matter of time before that population changes. A good example is this 2014 World Cup Prizm. I've been looking at that. I actually have run some sales recently, done some things with that. There's a lot of low pop in that because people haven't graded a lot of those cards. A lot of the cards are in bad shape. You don't think you're going to get a 10. Most of them get 9s. So there's a lot of cards that are 9s, Pop 1, PSA 9, highest in the pop, and that's great. I think that makes the card worth something. But you got to be careful with that, right? If it's not a major player, does it really make that card super expensive because there isn't a 10, right? I think that those things are important to consider in how you understand PSA. Now, for set collectors, that PSA 10 is a diamond in the rough. But I'm just talking about from the single card perspective, and I hope you guys understand that. The other thing I would encourage you to consider is the idea about the player market or the team market, right? So understanding a LeBron James card in the offseason, during the season, during the playoffs, if he wins the championship, if he gets knocked out of the playoffs, right? All those elements are so key to understanding how you evaluate a card, where you're looking at the market as well. And I think we used to live in a time where the season mattered a lot, right? Now we live in a time where I think you look at someone like Patrick Mahomes last season, his prices were so high as he grew and as he made the Super Bowl, and they were baked in, as people like to use that term, into his pricing structure. Tom Brady as well. He goes on to win the Super Bowl. He sees an initial little blip, but then you also see a drop on Tom Brady, and it's like, what's going on there? So there's a lot of things at play when you're evaluating these high-end cards. I don't think, like, when I meet people and they bring me these cards, I might have a 10, 15-minute conversation and trying to determine that evaluation. I think that's super key to how you look at a card, how you evaluate a card. I don't think comps are the end-all. I do think comps can be deceiving. I also think comps can be very low sometimes. Maybe somebody gets a card as a buy it now on eBay for a steal, and they want to sell it to you for 10% more than that last comp. Now, sometimes I might buy that if I think that they got a real big steal on that. Good for them. They found the card. But it's just one of those things as you go through this and you consider and you start to weigh out, right? You start to really consider for yourself, what is, the purpose of me buying this card? Is it for a collection? Is it for a flip? Is it for somebody else? Whatever. You have to kind of consider those factors. Rarity being, I think, the most important with it. I think you have to look at the print runs. I think you have to see, if there's been some sort of a similar sale. You have to go and do your research on that because if not, you can really, really, really miss the mark. I think that the last comp, which is a term a lot of people use, is a comp that I think, or is a term that I think people are maybe overusing sometimes. I think you can really get distorted by last comp sometimes when there's a comp the same day or the comp the day before, right? You have to average those things, or maybe even a week before. I think that you got to be smart about how you look at that. Really take into account really the last week sales, maybe the last 2 week sales. If the last comp was a month ago and the one before that was 8 weeks ago, then you have some leeway to kind of discuss what the heck the card's value is. So those are some things that I think about. I can give you some examples all the time of cards. A card I have right now is a good example. PSA 9, Kobe Bryant Gold, 2009 Refractor. It's a great card. You never see the card in a high grade at all. And the fact is, there is no 9.5s of that card, Beckett 9.5s. There's no PSA 10s of that card. So the PSA 9 is actually, I guess, the highest valued version of the card. It's an 09-10. It's a gold chrome. It's Steph Curry's rookie year. It's the card with Durant on it. There's a lot of factors to that card that make that card super appealing. But you can't find a comp on that card, and how you determine the valuation of it is super key. I love when you get cards and you ask maybe 5 or 10 or 15 people in your world what you think the value of it is. And if the disparity is like this, then you have a card that you really, really, really got to be keen on. But when the disparity is like this, yeah, you got your answer, okay? So I hope that helps you today. Hopefully you guys can take something from that. It's good to be back to see everybody on Mealy Stocks. I'll check the comments out as I can. I think this is a topic that there's a lot of questions, and I think feel free to shoot them in the comment section. I'll try and get to them. It's not an easy topic because you kind of have to treat it case by case. But hopefully I've given you something to chew on, and we'll see you.